Here we are, high above the earth in a balloon ride for our special episode of Sadie Hawkins Pod.
It's so beautiful. I can see everything from up here.
What? What?
I said I can see everything from up here.
No, I didn't bring any. So, I'm excited. We'll get into some voicemails. I can't hear my phone.
It's so beautiful. I feel like I'm having a real spiritual awakening.
What?
I said I'm having a spiritual awakening.
What do you mean you want to divorce me?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
What? Hello, everyone. We're back down to earth from our beautiful balloon ride. Up in our beautiful balloon.
In our 99 left balloons.
Wait, what does Homer sing when he has the pickle? I can normally recall Simpsons quotes so easily, but I can't think of that one right now. Hold on.
Remember in the 80s and early 90s when because I think it was like a leftover from 80s or maybe even 70s style where places decorated in hot air balloons, hot air balloon imagery was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that was on that was recently in Better Call Saul. Remember on Better Call Saul when he works for the phone company, he works for the phone store for a little bit, and he starts selling phones to people under the guise that they're anti-government phones or they're burner phones. Right. And that store has a bunch of hot air balloon imagery on the walls.
Yeah,
and
but
you were
that's newer.
What a specific location that they were able to find.
The little local amusement park where I grew up they were a water park / amusement park, and they had lots of hot air balloon imagery and very pastel pinks and blues and stuff like that. So it's a very comforting image, I find, of a hot air balloon. Although I don't find hot air balloons in general comforting, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
I remember the Simpsons thing now. It's, hey there, blimpy boy, flying through the sky so fancy free. Remember that?
That's a blimp. That's not a hot air balloon. That's whatever. Different. I'm not over here making Led Zeppelin references.
Here's someone's remix of the Hey There Blimpy Boy. This is funny. Where's the volume up?
Hey there, Blimpy Boy, flying through the sky so fancy free. Hey there, Blimpy Boy.
This is great. This is the song we're doing this week, right?
You said pickle, and that really threw me off.
Well, later he sings it and he's holding a pickle. See? There it is right there.
Yeah.
He's holding the pickle.
If you had said, when Homer wins that contest, I would have gotten it, or anything with a blimp, I would have gotten it.
It's too bad I couldn't think of it at first.
Goodyear blimp and stuff. That's not the same as a hot air balloon.
Well, whatever. Then he's sad because he gave up his blimp tickets, and he's crying, holding a pickle like a blimp.
He's a good dad.
Yeah, he gave it up for Lisa.
Yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't think of that at first, because I go around quoting that song all the time.
You do.
So that's the song we're doing. It's called Hey There, Blimpy Boy. That was a remix by Dr. Sally Topsy 2 years ago on YouTube. We're already to my part of the podcast. So anyway, Balloon Ride by Relient K. So we don't have any voicemails this week. We do have 2 left from Daniel that go back to the summer, but we'll do that another time. So here we are. Any other top of the show business?
Not that I can think of.
Oh, you know what's exciting?
What?
Over on patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod.
That's right.
We just finished reading The Complex Infrastructure Known as the Female Mind. It took us 1.5 years.
Yep.
Which is normally how long it takes me to read a book anyway. And here we are. We finally read the last chapter of the book. It's exciting. Just now, we have not yet released the final episode, but over there, we do have the final regular chapter of the book, and then coming out pretty soon is the epilogue of the book, followed by the conclusion, and then Getting Into You, right? Isn't that, it was actually
It's called Getting Into You.
one like little Relient K reference tossed at you at the end like peanuts. Like, here you go, chumps.
Well, they're like chapstick, chap lips, and things like chemistry, boy plus girl relationships was another chapter. So
yeah, when they could shoehorn it in. But I feel like if we had written it, I mean, my Twitter has better Relient K. Our Twitter has better Relient K references for jokes than this book does. But yep, we finished it, and that's the first big project we finished on this podcast. Now, coming up this month, because it's October, we're not only did we just finish this book, but this month we're going to finish our first Relient K release, as in do every song off of the release. Because it's been 3 years of doing this podcast.
yeah.
And we're going to do the third song from the Halloween EP.
Yep.
And then that Halloween EP will be done. We haven't finished any other albums that I know of. Maybe we randomly finish some like EP, like the 2000 ADD or something that we didn't notice because it has a lot of the same songs on other releases. But yeah, a lot of chapters closing now in October of 2021 for Sadie Hawkins Pod. But we still have so many songs left, like Balloon Ride. We talked about doing another Forget Not Slow Down because it's been like 3 months since we did Forget Not Slow Down, but we've only got like 2 left.
Yeah.
Because then we also have This Is the End, If You Want It, which we're doing as 1 episode.
At the end.
That's towards the end of the podcast. So really we only have 2 Forget Not Slow Down episodes left. Unless we redo some songs like we've talked about. I would kind of like to redo the Forget Not Slow Down title song.
Sure.
Because that was an early episode and it was recorded badly and we weren't quite sure how we were doing everything just yet. So that would be good to redo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dan.
Or would you rather just forget it and not slow down and just keep never go back?
It's a good question. I think I'll just forget and not slow down.
That'll be a good promo, though, if we redid Forget and Not Slow Down. It'd be like, we didn't forget and we slowed down.
Well, Dan, have you ever been on a balloon ride?
No. I know, obviously I would remember, but
you seemed very unsure.
Well, it took me a pause to think about, because I'm like, did I ever do like a sort of like, not fake, but a sort of like tethered balloon ride or something? You know what I mean? Like at a fair, they might have like, get in
I have
this
a story
balloon.
about that.
Okay, well there you go. But at like a fair or something, like you get in this balloon ride and it just lifts you up for a minute and lifts you back down. You don't actually go far.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever done anything like that, but I feel like I have. And I know I've been to hot air balloon festivals and looked at the hot air balloons.
Gotcha.
But I've never actually been in one of those hot air balloons.
Gotcha. I've been in a hot air balloon once. It was with my boyfriend, Dr. Harvey. It was a beautiful date. Stardew Valley.
Oh.
The best date in all of Stardew Valley, because they have these like heart events. And so you can romance like a certain number of villagers that are out there as potential marriage candidates. So through my first playthrough, I think I married Harvey. Maybe I didn't end up marrying him, but he definitely has the best date. He's afraid of heights, and then he decides to conquer that fear because he loves planes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so he takes you on a date up in a hot air balloon, and it's very sweet and romantic, and definitely the best date in the game.
Well, why don't you just go marry him for real?
And he loves jazz and coffee.
I like jazz and coffee.
He's really boring outside of that, though. And he doesn't make a lot as a doctor. His business is a little iffy. He's only got like 8 patients. So what you going to do?
Well, thinking of balloon ride dates also makes me think of, and I don't remember anything else of it other than like, I think there was I'm almost positive there's a Full House, not a Fuller House, but a Full House episode where I think maybe Aunt Becky is jealous of other. It's either that she's jealous of other Valentines that are happening for other couples, or it's that Uncle Jesse is going way over the top, and at the end he also gives her a balloon ride, and they ride a balloon.
So it's one of these two stark contrast things. It's either he forgot completely or he went over the top. But
the episode ends, or towards the end of the episode, Uncle Jesse has a balloon in the backyard.
Gotcha.
Which seems incredibly unlikely. I mean, yes, like a lot of stuff with that show doesn't make sense for San Francisco, but can you just take a hot air balloon out of the backyard of a house in San Francisco? I don't think so. At the very least, you need like a license, right?
Well,
you can't just be.
Well, I mean, did he have an operator with him? Or
I
no?
don't remember. This is the vaguest memory.
Because maybe you can like rent hot air balloons. So when I was in middle school, we had this like school fair or whatever, and my mom and I were there, and my mom was dressed up as a clown, and she was making balloon animals for everybody. And they had this, you could go on hot air balloon rides, and it was the kind where it was tethered. And we lived in Florida at this point. You know, Florida weather, it's not always great, sometimes a little iffy. Hurricanes can just come up and kind of out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so there were it was a small private school, and that ranged from like kindergarten through 8th grade. And there were a bunch of little kids and like 2 parents up in the balloon with the balloon ride operator, and the tether snapped. And
right, I have heard
they got like flown, they got all jumbled up, they got flown way far away. And I just remember like standing there with like my mom and like the school assistant headmaster, who was also the Spanish teacher, like praying that they would be okay. And like they ended up getting blown like a mile away before they were able to land. And it was like super frightening. And it was one of those like where the sky like out of nowhere just kind of starts to turn green, that kind of like tornado-y, hurricane-y sky. Right. And it was horrifying. And after that I was like, I'm never going in a fucking hot air balloon. What a nightmare.
Well, do you remember Balloon Boy a couple years ago? Do you remember that?
Like Up?
No. Well, there's that. But no, I love how we're just talking about balloons in general before we even get to the song.
I've seen Boy in the Plastic Bubble and Bubble Boy.
Right, but no, Balloon Boy was a controversy and a media sensation 10 years ago, or it looks like it was 11 years ago. And it was this family, which I have to look up their real names, but I'm on YouTube right now. I'll have to go to the Wikipedia. Do you remember Balloon Boy, where there was supposedly this viral video where a father was setting off a weather balloon or something?
Right.
And then they all started freaking out because they're like, oh my God, our son got in the weather balloon and he's floating away, and they scream and they yell. And it became this, and then
it was a hoax or something.
Yeah, it was a hoax. Like the boy didn't actually get in there.
They told him to go hide in the attic or something like that, right?
Because they wanted to make this viral sensation. 2009... October 15th, the Balloon Boy hoax occurred when a homemade helium-filled gas balloon shaped to resemble a silver flying saucer was released into the atmosphere above Fort Collins, Colorado by the Heen family. They claimed that their 6-year-old son Falcon was trapped inside it. Authorities confirmed the balloon reached 7,000 feet during its 90-minute flight.
Sorry.
The event attracted worldwide attention, and Falcon was nicknamed Balloon Boy in the media. And then there's a picture of the Colorado Army National Guard aviators searching for the 6-year-old boy. Well, I mean, spoiler warning, because I remember this at the time, but there's this whole thing like, oh my gosh, this young boy got in this like, you know, homemade just for fun balloon, and he floated away, and they scream in this video. The video goes viral. The Army actually is involved, or the Air Force is involved in helping find it.
Yeah, because there's that big Air Force base in Colorado.
Yeah, and police helicopters, it's saying. And when suspicions of a hoax soon arose, particularly, and this is the moment I remember, particularly after an interview with Wolf Blitzer. So I don't know. I don't quite get here how they say he was saved, if like obviously the army and the armed forces and the police couldn't have actually saved him because he wasn't really in the balloon. But somehow they say, okay, he's saved, here he is, and they start doing interviews.
Right.
And they go on the Wolf Blitzer they go on Larry King Live, and this is as Larry King is kind of like not on his own show anymore in 2009, and eventually leaves CNN. Wolf Blitzer is filling in. And he asked why were you hiding in the balloon? And the 6-year-old, who shouldn't have been on live TV if you want to keep this a hoax, says, you guys said that we did it for the show. And then everybody started figuring out, oh, this kid can't lie. It was all a hoax for the viral video. In 2009, when the concept of viral videos was still pretty new, and it became this big hoax. I guess there's interviews with the kid now that he's...
So much wasted, money and resources in that, too. Ugh.
Now he's 17 or something. So I wonder if that young boy had been actually in the balloon, if he would have been I can see everything from up here. I'm connected to Jesus more than I ever was before. That's what he should have said. They should have trained him to say, when we go at the Wolf Blitzer show, you say you were closer to Jesus than ever before.
Trained him to... Wow.
So when I think of this song sometimes, I do think of the Balloon Boy hoax. Although I forgot a lot of details I just read about. But I just remember the Wolf Blitzer show, and I remember it was all a scam just for the viral video, and I knew that the armed forces and the police were involved, and it cost all this money, and it was a major hoax that they were in a lot of trouble for. Balloon Boy. So this week we're talking about Balloon Ride. This episode is set up in the way that we normally discuss covers. We start with discussing the real version, and then we get to the Relient K version.
So we're discussing real hot air balloons.
We're discussing balloons first, and then we get to the Relient K song. So this song is pretty fun, right? I kind of forget overall how much not heavy, but how it is most of the song, it's that first part of the song that really sticks in my mind the most.
It's total 90s vibes.
Right. But that sort of soft rock sort of thing that opens this song, which I definitely can't tell. And I don't think this is just me not knowing the ins and outs of music very well. I can't really tell if that's an acoustic guitar or just an electric guitar process to sound light, whatever. It opens with that sound, with that very light sound, which doesn't seem to match most of the rest of the album. It really stands on its own. But then when the guitar gets fuzzy and it starts, being a pop rock song, again, it fits in with all of the rest of the album. It's just that first 30 seconds really makes you feel like this song stands out heavily. That light, floaty, clean guitar with no fuzz at the beginning. Very soft rock, almost jazzy inspired guitar. Honestly, almost jazzy inspired guitar.
I mean, this song is a jam. It's a total jam. I love the music in this all throughout. Like I said, it's got total 90s vibes, especially kind of more towards the middle and end. It's good stuff.
A song that they've never played live that I have been able to see.
Not even at that early show where the kids in Detroit or wherever it was where the kids don't care.
No. Instead, they played that awful fake rap rock song.
Right.
That I always thought was a cover of some sort, but it turned out it was just their joke rap rock name.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't see any live versions of it. Only one cover from Guess Who.
Wow. Princess of the Sun,
That's
obviously.
Right.
I almost said Queens of the Stone Age.
So, I mean, very much, I'm sure it's not an underappreciated song by people who listen to the album, but at large on the internet, it seems to be a pretty underappreciated song as far as derivative works and covers and anything like that.
Yeah, it was a pretty short deep dive as well.
Yeah. So one thing I've always wondered is, I know it's Thiessen singing for most of it, but there's a point where when the chorus comes in, there's a lot of harmony. There's more than just Thiessen singing at that point. And then all the other voices drop down for sort of the end of the chorus. I can see everything from up there. That part, I think that's Steven.
Okay.
I don't think it's Thiessen. And it's one of those things where I know that when it's Hoops singing, I can absolutely tell, right? Or at least at the very least, when Hoops is singing, even years ago, before I would pay close attention to these things, I'd be like, oh, that's clearly not the same lead singer. That's clearly not Matt Thiessen. Then I have the issue of Dave Douglas's voice and Thiessen's voice sound so similar when mixed together on, that Who I Am Hates. I mixed this up once recently. It's Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, or it's I Still Hate Consequences. That's it. I think recently I mentioned Who I Am Hates Who I've Been has a section sung by Dave, but it's actually I So Hate Consequences. So Dave's parts of I So Hate Consequences sound so much to me like Thiessen that I never knew until we did this podcast what parts were Dave. But now I'm wondering the same thing about this song. I'm like, there's just a couple of words where it doesn't quite sound like Thiessen, and because it's all kind of mixed together, it makes me think just this one section, they dropped everybody else up, and I think it's Steven they left up. We know it's not Brian. Brian didn't sing any leads on any albums except for that one thing on the Christmas album where he talks. Mm-hmm. The original mix, not the one that's on
Let It Snow Baby.
Let It Snow Baby. On the original All Work and No, wait. Deck the Hall, Bruise Your Hands. On that version of Old Lang Syne, that's Brian talking. Brian doesn't sing. Hoops, I feel like I could tell. So I just, by process of elimination, I feel like this is Steven. So right there, that doesn't sound like Thiessen to me.
No, but it's so early.
Yeah.
It could be.
And we were talking about, Jessica and I were talking about this in our regular lives recently, how it's not the sign of a bad singer, but the sign of a really good singer, one of the signs of a really good singer is if their talking voice and their singing voice don't sound the same. Mm-hmm. And like one of the first examples I ever noticed of that was Darius Rucker, all the way back in the 90s when he was only known as the lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish, when people thought his name was Hootie. People still think his name was Hootie, I'm sure. But like you would hear Darius Rucker's voice in that first big Hootie and the Blowfish album on MTV, and then you hear him talking, and you'd be like, these are totally different voices. Mm-hmm. So the sign of a really good singer is sometimes their singing voice and their talking voice are totally different because they probably like are really singing from the diaphragm and they've really trained and stuff. Thiessen's singing voice on the early album sounds just like his talking voice.
Yeah.
Then his singing voice kind of changes up around the time that he talked a lot about how he's really been working on his singing, mm-hmm. right? And then you get that with like, you know, post Forget Not Slow Down, around the time of Forget Not Slow Down. So his voice sounds a little different from these early ones, but especially here, Thiessen's singing is just kind of melodic talking, really. You know, it's like not trying to insult him, and it works perfectly well. Mm-hmm. He's on key and everything, but his singing in this era is melodic talking, essentially. So when I hear something that doesn't sound to my ear on a close listen exactly like Thiessen, that's now what makes me suspicious. So here the whole band is harmonizing together. Still a whole band. So it keeps going back and forth for me. It's like it sounds like one, then it sounds like Thiessen, then it doesn't sound like Thiessen. It sounds like Thiessen, then it doesn't sound like Thiessen. And you're right, it could just be how it came out in that moment when he said, "I can see everything from up there." But when I really listen close, it doesn't sound like Thiessen.
I mean, they recorded this in like a church or something for like real cheap, right? Something like that. So I mean, I don't know.
Oh, did you see my tweet? That reminds me. Did you see my tweet about a gold mix of the self-titled?
I did not.
It was just like in the last day. So I was thinking about how we have these different mixes of albums 2 and 3, but there's no different mix of album 1. And sometimes I go to the first 3 gears and I listen closely and I'm like, no, there's no difference. Mm-hmm. They never remixed this album. So then I was like, oh, it'd be funny. And I thought this and I tweeted it. I said, we should all work together as fans to buy so many copies of the self-titled Relient K album that it goes gold, and then they have to make a new gold mix. So
Hilarious.
We have 2 different mixes of the album. When I first tweeted it, my spell check was like, oh, you didn't mean gold mix, you meant good mix. Switches it, I don't pay attention, I send the tweet, and some people are like, what do you mean good mix? It's got the mix it should have. And I'm like, fuck. So then I at first I'm like super frustrated that happened, that there was that typo. Because I make typos all the time. I do weird spelling mistakes all the time. But in this case, it was not my fault.
Right.
So, and then I delete my angry tweet responding to myself.
No,
I kind of wrote an angry tweet like, thanks a lot, spell check. And I'm like, wait, there might be a more appropriate, nicer way to do this. So I just tweeted again with the correct thing at the end saying they'll release a gold mix. And then I reply to that tweet and I say, this is the gold mix of my original tweet.
That's funny.
So
that's cute.
I would love, it would just be funny to hear another mix of this album, which I guess we don't need it. We didn't really need another mix of albums 2 and 3 either. Although as we've been going through it, like last week, there are, like Down in Flames, there are little changes that sometimes make sense. So that's other top of the show business. When we did Down in Flames, I completely forgot to mention this, but Down in Flames is the first new Relient K song I ever heard. Completely forgot to mention it. I didn't write it down in my notes, so I forgot to mention it. But the first time I saw Relient K was at that Salvation Army camp when they were just like literally in a van just going around wherever they got booked.
Down by the river?
In a van down by the river. And they played at a Salvation Army camp and my friend's ska band opened for them. And I think there were maybe 25, 30 people there, closer to 20. And Down in Flames was the first new song. And only the self-titled was out. They're like, here's a new song. It's called Down in Flames. And I was like, cool. But then because, it's a Salvation Army camp, 20 people, Relient K isn't famous at all. So sorry, I'm playing with a thing in my hand. So I go up to them later and I'm like, Down in Flames is the name of a Real Big Fish song as well.
Danny!
Whatever. It's a very common term in the vernacular. I don't think you're really bothered though. I don't think, why would they care? He was like, oh, really? Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, And then, but I did feel bad later that I pointed that out. So this is the time when when you could like email them. And I emailed Thiessen in 2000 and I was like, there's a lot of bands with songs called Down in Flames.
Danny, it's even worse. No, it's not. It's so cringy.
I made it funny. The way I wrote it, I made it funny. I wish I still had those emails.
No wonder he remembered you every other time you saw him. He was like, that kid was an asshole and tells me all the time about my songs that are titled the same thing as stupid ska songs.
What are you saying? I can't hear
you. Yeah, I don't think about this song a lot, super often, but it's a good song.
Yeah.
It's a cute song. It's not a song that I skipped. It was like a song that I would definitely listen through when I was listening to this album. When I first got it, I love this song.
So I don't think that's an acoustic guitar. I think the soft guitar, the clean guitar, I think that's just electric.
I like that ringing at the end.
It needed another at the very end. So this is a song that I often cite when it's a relatively recent opinion I have, like more recent than us creating this show. Just say that like this album and Air for Free are more akin to each other in the sense that Relient K kind of stretches in what constitutes a Relient K song.
Interesting. Because
by the time of, even the second album, and certainly by the time of and Five Score, there's there's one kind of cloth from which the idea of a Relient K song can sort of be cut. You know what I mean? Like, and Five Score and Forget Not Slow Down, even though there are different tempos and different tones, they're coming from one singular kind of sense. One idea, one I wouldn't say like they're trapped in a certain mode, but they're certainly like streamlined.
Sure.
And then by Collapsible Lung, it's like wide open, right? And it's this thing that like we talk about all the time and lots of fans talk about, but they're doing all these different kind of songs, and then so many fans reject that thing. It's like, well, these don't sound like Relient K songs. And then they pull it back a little bit to Air for Free, and there are all kinds of different songs on there. Very different instrumentations, very different kinds of concepts of songs. And it's not like they're all only coming from one sort of category of rock music, like their quintessential middle albums kind of are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I kind of at some point thought, well, the first Relient K album, there was no expectation on them of what is Relient K and what can a Relient K song be. And there's no larger expectation from the genre or the scene that they're coming up in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they can play around with genre a little bit more, or at least play around with the ideas of the types of songs they can play. So they can do a Softer to Me, which is sort of a post-hardcore thing. And they can do, what are some other songs on this album?
Nancy Drew.
Well,
Charles in Charge.
Yeah, like it's still all coming from that sort of pop
Hello,
punk.
McFly. Wake Up Call.
Well, the Wake Up Call's a little different, but you know what I mean? They're able to, this song and Softer to Me and something else. Benediction for sure. They can do other little things that don't need to sound like they're coming from one specific sort of cut of cloth.
Sure.
And then things start to get streamlined into one specific sound, even if they're writing different kinds of songs, even if they have a couple of the more worshipy songs on the second and third album. So I think of this album and Air for Free being a little bit more of a kind to each other. You know what I mean? And then Air for Free and Collapsible Lung also relate in a way. So, I don't know. It's just something I recently thought about. And it's Balloon Ride, really, that makes me think of this. Because that clean guitar sound, that soft rock, that floaty sound, which obviously matches the lyrical theme of the song, is so not like a Relient K song that you'd think overall.
I don't know. I feel like they just are one of those bands that's kind of always done just whatever they feel like doing at that time. Maybe with the exception of Five Square, where they were signed to a major label and had a little bit more of a label's input on what they're putting out on a record.
Right.
Versus every other time where I feel like they are just kind of putting out what they actually are into at the time and what they want to put out there.
Right. And I guess, yeah, like A Deathbed is a big departure from the rest of that album, right? Mm-hmm. But that's such a big, specific, experimental, but also grand idea that sort of sets apart from everything else I'm saying. And this is, by measure, by the metrics of it, this is not that different from a Relient K song overall. It's just those first couple of seconds that kind of sets it apart from the rest of the album and really sets it apart from a lot of what Relient K did up until Collapsible Lung. Mm-hmm. So it's just an interesting little moment in their catalog. It's like, what if they did sort of stick more to the pop rock thing as opposed to the leaning towards the pop punk thing, which is not really their fault, because if you're a young band playing, any kind of fast guitar, and if you play at Warped Tour, everyone just kind of labels you as pop punk, even if you are more interested in doing other forms of rock and stuff.
Right.
Oh, and then obviously, maybe this song's more akin to a Must Have Done Something Right, to be sort of a soft rock radio concept of a Relient K song. But it still gets heavy and it still gets fuzzy. Not heavy, but it gets fuzzy in the middle. It's still a fuzzy Relient K song, so it's not that different. It's just interesting. It's not an outlier, but it's a notable song among the track list of this album. And that floaty, clean guitar at the beginning is almost like Breakdown, how there's 3 different kinds of breakdowns, and how when they have a chance to, Relient K will, the music will match the lyrical irony or the lyrical theme of the song. Mm-hmm. In this case, they've done the same thing. They have a song that sounds like a balloon ride. It sounds like a summer day filled with balloons in the sky. That whole, soft rock, clean guitar opening, that floaty sound. It quite literally sets up the theme of the lyrics.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And then, yeah, you're right. And then there's songs in Air for Free where you definitely feel like you're in that particular mood. Mountaintop, you kind of feel like you're on a mountaintop and doing all the things in the song. And,
right.
Sleeping, you feel like you're out on a porch in Nashville and you're not sleeping tonight and come on over and hang out.
Which makes me wonder, where do the, in what order do these songs get written? Is it, some bands write music first and lyrics second. Some bands have a book of lyrics and then they just start matching up some some artists have a book of lyrics and they start matching up lyrics that make sense to songs they've written, or they might write things together. They'd be like, I want to write a song about a balloon ride, and they sit down and it's like, let's find a chord that sounds like a balloon ride and finish it from there. So I'm curious, like, I don't think we really know. I don't think it's ever really come up in an interview that we've seen, at least not discussed on this podcast, of how does Thiessen write songs. Mm-hmm. We know he improvises songs all the time, mm-hmm. but as every time we hear like a specifically improvised song, like on stage or something, or the songs that we know are improvised, like We Just Wasted with Crayons or the Office theme, you can kind of tell when those are improvised because he has a specific cadence that is clearly his, I'm improvising this song right now, as opposed to the deliberate nature of songs he's written. So
we know that Forget Not Slow Down, he wrote the lyrics first and then sort of worked on the music later because he sat in a cabin and did it and then, got together with the band and they worked out more of the music stuff after.
At the same time, like he might have, I don't think, yeah, I get what you're saying. He was probably working on everything together in one at that point, but he still would come with like the chord progressions and like the ideas of the tones of the songs. Like, I know a lot of bands will write songs on acoustic, and then they get together with the band, and they flesh it out. Like, I think Green Day, I don't know if that's still the case, but I know when I was obsessed with Green Day around the time of Dookie and Insomniac, Billy Joe would say, I write all my songs on acoustic. So he would write all his songs on acoustic, and then they'd get together with the band, and they'd flesh out the sound of it with the full band. So, like, how many other bands do that way? Is that the way that Relient K would do stuff? Mm-hmm. Now, with Balloon Ride, I'm asking these questions for the first time.
On sort of a similar topic, I actually, looking at the song, looking at more the lyrics than the music, although the music certainly kind of goes into this, I wonder when this song was written. I feel like this was probably written pretty early, based on sort of the maturity and general vibe of the lyrics and even the music. I feel like this possibly was like they wrote this song around the time of the demo, but it just didn't fit on the demo. So they probably reworked it a little and sat down and did another draft or two for this song to go on the self-titled.
I mean, this album came out in 2000 and the demo's from 1998. So it's like 2 years is not a lot of time in terms of like there being a big change in the era of the band. So I feel like any sort of song from this album could probably sound like it would come from the same time, right? And I mean, when you're a kid, and by kid I mean teenager, 1 year seems like every year seems like a different era, especially if like when you're in high school, right? Like every year feels like a lifetime, whereas opposed to now, where like once you get into your late 20s and your 30s, 1 year feels the same as last year. But yeah, so it's like the maturity that and the artistic maturity can develop so quickly at a time like this in 1998. So those could be astronomically separate times in Thiessen's and the band as a whole's musical development. So that could be the case. If this feels more early to you, then that makes sense. Because to me, it doesn't necessarily sound like it's from the demo.
I mean, I don't think that it would fit on the demo.
Right.
I think that it's obviously does not fit in with that same sort of scratchier, more punk sound. Right. So that's why I'm like, I wonder if they thought, all right, let's shelve this. We'll work on it later, or we'll, record it for something else.
Gotcha. I wonder. I wonder if there were any songs that were really written after All Work and No Play. I wonder if like the whole thing was just songs written around 1998 and earlier
for the self-titled. Like, I wonder, because
there's that thing with rock bands like the sophomore slump about how you have a lifetime to work on your first album.
Right.
So as far as we know, every song on the self-titled goes back to them in their bedroom, not even signed to Goatee or with their development deal or anything yet.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Just real quick to look over the lyrics. So it's just like, it's a very simple sort of praise song, not necessarily a worship song, but it's still a praise song. It's sort of like about connecting with God, and it's a very simple metaphor, simple thing. It's not a I mean, I wonder if if this is any kind of literal teaching, if he went on a balloon ride and was like, I want to write a song about this, or if it's just like, I feel more connected to God. And you can imagine, anyone can imagine flying up in the sky and just feeling connected to God. So there were times in my life when I was so confused. There were things between me and God that were blocking my view. So I prayed, oh dear Lord, take these things away so I can see. He answered my prayers, and at the sight of him, I fell to my knees. And until I went on that fateful trip, thought that I was on a sinking ship. Until I went on that fateful trip, thought I was on a sinking ship. So also, like, there's a juxtaposition here of two different types of vessels, right? It's not enough that it's already a song about a balloon ride, and the opening sound of the song sounds like a balloon ride. He's also saying, like, I felt like I was on a completely opposite sort of thing of a balloon ride, a sinking ship, another type of vessel that is in complete dire straits and is falling apart. But instead, no, I'm on a better vessel that's flying me above the sky. Feels both immature and mature at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a very simple analogy metaphor that almost anyone could come up with, and it's sometimes when I think about it, it doesn't feel like properly structured, like, you know, it's a song about a balloon ride and suddenly we're on a ship, but then it also makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense. So this is very much like an early sort of song. Like, I don't know if necessarily you would hear a song like this any later than this first album. Until I went on the balloon ride, I can see everything from up there. I went on a balloon ride, and now everything seems clear. I went on a balloon ride. I can see everything from up there. I went on a balloon ride, and now everything seems clear. And I don't know if I ever really knew the lyrics to the bridge. It goes, I strive towards divinity, though sometimes I don't know what to do. When other people laugh at me, all I do is look towards you. So, I mean, there's possibly a little bit of like Christian persecution tossed into the bridge there about like people laughing at the Christians, which that's the context. It could just be, you know, being bullied in general. Exactly. Like, it feels like it could be either. I was going to say that. It's like, in this context, my mind immediately goes to the idea of like people are laughing at him because he's Christian, but people could just be laughing at, there's no specific line that says that's the reason. People could just be laughing at him because he's a loser, because he seems like a loser or whatever. Verse 2, well on my way through this life, yet something was gone. I looked round and round, and then I found I needed someone. So I prayed, oh dear Lord, fill me up, and make me whole. Present my life, Jesus Christ, save my soul. It's a very Christian song. But this also feels much lighter than some of the other Christian songs we've done recently. You know, this is simply like, I don't feel good, you know, Christ save me. Very simple concept, like the bare bones of a sort of praise and worship song. Although, like I said, this doesn't exactly feel like a worship song to me. Of course, people could worship to this song because people worship to anything at those Christian shows in this time. Like, they'd put their hands up to ska songs and hardcore songs and anything that's relatively slower. Same pre-chorus, same chorus, and then the song ends. So, yeah, very simple lyrical idea. Like I said, simultaneously nice and simultaneously feels mature and immature at the same time. Right. Like all good poetry should. Exactly. So I guess we'll take our break, and we'll be right back. We want to thank you very much for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Sadie Hawkins Pod. From there, you can interact with us, as well as view the videos and images we talk about on the show. You can also call our voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE. That's 402-957-2343. Leave us a message and we can play it on a future episode. Also, we invite you to check out SadieHawkinsPod.com, one simple place to get links to all our social media and a link to our TeePublic store. There you can pick up merchandise, or merch as it's known in the industry, We have our Black Flag parody shirt, our Little Sheet Boy ice cream shirt, and our all-new Boys from Canton ampersand shirts that list the first names of every album lineup of Relient K.
And if you can't get enough of us, well, good news. At patreon.com/SadieHawkinspod, we are releasing at least 2 bonus episodes a month. You'll also have access to our whole backlog, including our discussion of Owl City's Ocean Eyes, reading through the Complex Infrastructure book, and the songs from K is for Karaoke.
Finally, we want to thank our current patrons, who include Daniel, Josh, JR, Jarrett, Eric, Joel, Connor, Michael, Helen, Samantha, Roxanne, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, David, and Brady.
We hope to see you there, and even if we don't, we hope that you will keep us in positive regard.
Aww.
As always, we have song meanings. Crystal Skates 15, March 19th, 2002. This song is so awesome, smiley face. When I went and read some lyrics of Relient K's, I saw this and I nearly cried. That's how much this song really meant to me. It was so amazing, and the words are all so true, and it really shows that these guys have massive faith for God, and that in this song, he is singing about how things were blocking his view and how he thought he was on a sinking ship and all these other things which make his life seem bad, and that when he prayed to God, God took all of that away and made things right for him, and that Jesus filled him up and made him whole again, and I think that really does mean something. Superness on March 27th, 2002 said, "Every time I'm having a bad day, I sing, I went on a balloon ride. I can see everything from up there. I went on a balloon ride and now everything seems clear and it makes me smile and feel much better." Brant the Great on June 18th, 2002 said, "I like this song, ... Wise Wiz on March 11th.
I guess there's no debate if this song is about Jesus or not.
2003.
How could there be? Yeah. No, it's just about a regular balloon.
Also, the meaning is right there in the lyrics. Said, "A lot of times we find that we're focusing on ourselves and doing things quote unquote our way, because for some reason man has this funny thing called pride, and we think that we're powerful and flawless in what we do, when in fact we're far from it. We mess up, we blow it, we fail. And it's in these times that we're really hit hard, because we have to face the fact that we really are weak and we can't do things on our own. It's also in these times that we're forced into a much needed humility. And that's what I think this song's about. The realization that we need God, but more importantly, that he's always there for us, even when we do utterly fail. If we keep our focus on God, even when those around us mock us and try to bring us down, he'll take care of us. All because of the simple fact that he loves us. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Matthew 11:28-29. Then a link popped up from Pandora for Hawk Nelson's song Recess.
Okay.
Which I'm not super familiar with, but I guess they thought if you listen to Balloon Ride, you should also listen to Recess by Hawk Nelson.
Is that the soundtrack to the cartoon show Recess? Just kidding.
Maybe?
Lifestyles of the rich and the famous. They're always complaining.
Sounds just like Balloon Ride.
So, it's a really short song. It's only a minute, and it seems to be an instrumental. I actually got, I didn't really listen to Hawk Nelson because since I'm a little older, I was already sort of into, I'm double checking, so 2004 is when Hawk Nelson came out. So, I started getting into punk and rock and stuff in 1994, 95. I learned about Christian rock in 96. I was obsessed with Tooth and Nail throughout the late 90s. So I'd already was aware of every Tooth and Nail pop punk band from the late 90s. And then by 2004, Hawk Nelson comes out and I listen to them and I'm like, oh, this sounds to me more like Good Charlotte and the kind of post Blink-182 pop punk bands that were getting exposure after Blink-182. And I wasn't as into those bands in the mainstream, so there was no reason for me to like be into a Hawk Nelson. I was already more familiar with MXPX. I'd been into Green Day, so I was not really. I didn't like too much gloss on the pop punk. And maybe if I listen back to this Hawk Nelson record now, Letters to the President, I wouldn't think it's as glossy as it sounded by contrast in 2004. But I got the Hawk Nelson's album from the library actually, and that's how I checked it out, and I was like, no, this is not. I like whatever other Tooth and Nail bands that predate this one.
Gotcha. And this song actually popped up a couple times in my deep dive for Balloon Ride. The unreleased song My Cape is Stuck in the Phone Booth.
Right, we're gonna do that at some point.
Yeah, so that definitely pops up a couple times along with Balloon Ride for some reason.
Well, I mean, you're spoiling the episode we'll do someday.
Just a little preview.
Right. Because I don't know how much info is out there about this song. It's one of the very, very few unreleased leaked songs for Relient K, which I think it might be one of the only leaked unreleased Relient K songs.
Yeah, and I also have, because it came up later again in my deep dive, a Reddit thread that had sort of that had a link to a Dropbox for the more unknown songs, like for the Ed Sullivan version of, Nancy Drew and
I think I found that same
a couple others, yeah.
I think I found that same Dropbox. Go ahead.
I found a comment down below that the reason why, I think maybe one of the reasons why it was leaked, or at least the version that was on that Dropbox that you could get of My Cape is Stuck in the Phone Booth, was from this commenter or this Redditor who was explaining that he asked Thiessen what happened to those songs, and he emailed him, and Thiessen emailed him a copy of My Cape is Stuck in the Phone Booth.
Okay. Because I was also curious if this is one of the things that leaked from the online scavenger hunt for Bird and the B-Sides. If you remember, we hear about that, but we didn't do that at the time, so it's kind of hard to get a lot of clear information from people who didn't do that scavenger hunt at the time.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm getting a phone call from Australia. Do you think it's Denny? Apparently it's someone called Scam Likely. You too can ride a hydrogen balloon to outer space for only $125,000.
Oh, that's not bad. That's cheaper than a house.
It's true. Facts.
I'll live in the sky. Thank you very much.
So yeah, a lot of links for balloon rides. Hire a balloon ride. Go on a balloon ride. Take a balloon to space. That sort of thing.
Nice. Well, like I said, there aren't really any covers to speak of for this, but and there aren't any live videos either. So let's see. I thought we could do something that we don't normally do, and that's read through the YouTube comments for the official upload for this song.
Nice.
So here's So, when Relient K started uploading all their own music to their official YouTube channel about 5 years ago, this got uploaded, and there's 7 comments on it. Caleb, 5 years ago, said, I can relate to this. Sorry if I'm bothering by all the comments I'm leaving, but Be My Escape is what saved me. I'm so thankful. I've repented before that, but Be My Escape, it just captured what I was feeling. So ever since then, I haven't looked back. Thank you, Relient K. And then 4 different comments from other people. That is beautiful, but I'm like, but this is Balloon Ride. So I'm partially wondering if they're the comments for Be My Escape are probably really massive. So let me go leave this comment on a less populated song. So Relient K is more likely to see the comment. Then Ridiculous247 said, saw this in concert at the Air One stage, Spirit West Coast, way back in the good old days. So there we go. Some confirmation that this was played live.
Yeah.
Which I should have said when I said I didn't find any proof of this being played live. When it comes to these early songs for, say, the first 2 albums, that doesn't mean much to look on Setlist FM or not find a YouTube upload.
Yeah, we mentioned it.
Yeah, because like Kickoff, there's no proof of Kickoff really being played live, but it was. It was played when that album came out at pretty much every show we figured out since then. I had forgotten I had seen Kickoff live until I got video of a show I was actually at that's not on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, I was there and I forgot this got played. And because no one was saving the set lists in 2001... nobody knows what songs were played at those shows. And then it's just a bunch of random sort of weird comments after that. Like just hi and buena and stuff. So there's that. Then let's see. Then I just found this other thing. And because there's no other like official Relient K material based on this song. At the Best Tour Ever 2013... at the Highline Ballroom in New York City on May 10th, 2013. Thiessen just has an acoustic guitar. Thiessen just has an acoustic guitar by himself at this point in the show. And he does a cover. He kind of just jams out a cover of Only Living Boy in New York by Simon and Garfunkel, which makes sense because they're in New York. The uploader, Rocker Mom MSM, who we've seen their videos a couple of times, didn't know what song this is, so they just wrote Relient K cover ? Because they don't know if it's a cover or a new song. And I did not know. I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I did not know this Simon and Garfunkel song, but I googled the lyrics and I figured out what song it is. Because there's no comments on here either. I should leave a comment and say it's The Only Boy in New York by Simon and Garfunkel. Obviously. It's not that obvious. So let's just listen to this because I don't know what other reason we would ever listen to this.
From the weather report. Hey, I got nothing to do today but smile. Little boy knew.
Not a lot of Garden State fans in the audience.
Oh, is it in Garden State?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
It's on the Garden State soundtrack, and that says 2013, so that movie would have been out.
Yeah. Maybe that's, I was like surprised that there's one person who I assume is around our age singing the song up front. I'm like, oh, they must have liked Simon and Garfunkel. Maybe they heard it from the Garden State soundtrack. I had no idea. Garden State. Classic, one of the greats of cinema. One of the greats of cinema. I don't think there's any other film that's as influential and universally loved as Garden State.
I can't tell if you're being facetious or not.
I don't know what you mean. When have I ever been facetious? Zach Braff really has the chance to be our generation's Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
Everything in that film is so deliberately like the production design, the cinematography, like it's such a deliberate and artful film. From the selection of the music, the performances, the way influential, if for nothing else, then it's one of the first instances of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, right? Major influence on the zeitgeist overall.
I really liked Garden State.
A lot of people really. I watched the Garden State at the time. I don't know if it's really.
Team Jessica was super influenced by Garden State.
Right. It's almost like it's like, yeah, you know, what I'm trying to say, not to make this a sexist thing, but it was sexist at the time. Like, boys have so many movies that of the time had so many movies that they felt represented them, like Donnie Darko and Fight Club and The Matrix, right? Now you deconstruct like The Matrix or even Donnie Darko, and it's not really, it spoke to boys at the time, but it was really meant to speak to everybody. Certainly Donnie Darko spoke to you, and The Matrix is actually filled with like gender themes and transgender themes and stuff that like bros weren't picking up at the time. But still, I'm just saying, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, high school and college boys, bros, had these movies, and that were just like, they all liked them. They all had the posters on their wall in their dorms, and they all talked about them on their MySpaces, and it represented them. Well, what did the more sensitive people, and by extension the girls of that generation, and I'm sorry I'm cutting gender lines, I'm talking about from the point of view of then, what movie did they have? Garden State. They could put the Garden State poster up on their wall. Maybe they also had... what's that movie called? I can picture the poster. You thought I owned the poster.
Lost in Translation.
No, I had the Lost in Translation poster, but Lost in Translation is another good example of a very zeitgeisty mainstream movie that made a generation think they were into art films. No, I'm trying to think of
Virgin Suicides?
Well, that's a good one too. I'm trying to think of Eternal Sunshine.
I'm just going to sit here and name every Sofia
Eternal
Coppola
Sunshine.
movie.
Eternal Sunshine. Eternal Sunshine. This sort of mainstream movie, I guess what I'm getting at is it's these mainstream movies that made them, and I'm sure they still exist nowadays in some context, but mainstream movies that had more like creativity and art to them and actually were a singular vision that managed to, you know, circumvent studio interference and became really successful movies in and of themselves in a studio mainstream construct, but then made like a generation of young kids and wannabe filmmakers feel like they were into art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Donnie Darko,
Quote,
Fight Club.
indie movies that weren't that indie,
Exactly.
but we call them indie.
Exactly.
But they had massive, massive budgets behind them.
Right. I feel like now whatever sort of like art films that are backed by major studios are happening now actually probably have more credibility, right? Because still by the mid 2000s, studios were backing sort of mid-tier budget films that could get that audience, that could become popular and really influential to younger kids, and like could get to there. But now the studios only make giant blockbusters or movies that are meant to like fill theaters. They're not backing those any kind of singular visions anymore, or they're not even backing the kind of under the radar movies that could be a singular vision and become popular sort of by mistake.
They're not backing anything if it doesn't have 20 sequels that they can make bank off of.
So the movies that exist now and the like kids in high school and in college who are discovering new movies that fill that same void, that's actually probably more credible because those are probably actually more indie films.
Like Tangerine.
Yeah, there you go. But even if like a Netflix distributes them and it's like a lower tier Netflix film, or, you know, Amazon or something, and it like speaks to a generation on a smaller scale nowadays because media is so like separated out.
Right.
I still feel like if there is a Fight Club, a Virgin Suicides, a Donnie Darko, Lost in Translation, where it seems like an art film, but it's really like...
Although it's a lot harder to get picked up by those things now. Like, you can still find some stuff on Netflix where, like, they happen to make a contract, like, 10 years ago with actual indie productions. But now, like, they have such specific specs to get on Netflix. Like, you have to be using certain cameras, certain sound equipment. You have to be in certain formats that are not really accessible by a more independent, smaller budget individual. So it is a lot harder to get on those sort of mediums now. Now, anybody can put anything on Amazon Prime, but even they are really tightening up because on what can be put there.
Amazon Prime, every Halloween was a treasure trove of, like, horror movies. Like, there were hundreds of independent horror movies, like, from regional, you know, backyard horror movies that we could watch to, like, forgotten 80s movies that got put up by the copyright holders. But now I searched, and it's literally, like, I looked into it. Like, I went to one of those websites that shows you every movie that's on Amazon Prime. And there's a commercial playing in the background. Sorry, I'm getting ready for the next video. Anyway, whatever. It used to be hundreds of horror movies. Right. And I used one of those websites that aggregates every possible movie you can find on different streaming sites, and I narrowed it down to how many horror movies are available on Amazon Prime from this year to this year, and it was less than 100. And I'm like, damn, Amazon Prime is really screwing up.
But yeah, really, Prime and independent streaming sources are the only places you're going to find that more true sort of independent feel. And whatever your local film festival is.
Well, where the teens are really expressing themselves artistically, if they don't have that generation of up-and-coming pseudo-art films.
TikTok?
They're using TikTok, but at least back in 2009... it was teens playing jazz because there's no covers of this song. We'll get to the cover, actually, the one cover. But here is the band Brass in Black at the WHRHS, so a high school, spring 2009 concert. And this is a six-piece jazz band of high school students playing a song that is also called Balloon Ride. That's some good teen jazz right there.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I'm sure this does sound familiar. It's probably one of those jazz songs we've heard 100 times but didn't know it's called Balloon Ride. This reminds me of The Simpsons where the teachers go on strike when the music teacher leaves. Oh, yeah. Because they're playing awfully like elementary school students, and when the music teacher leaves because they're going on strike, they're like, we can play the forbidden music now, and then they play a really, really good orchestral song. Here is a hip-hop duo called Briella with their song also called Balloon Ride. After this commercial. All right.
We had that 1 month of YouTube Premium.
So I think actually...
They're letting off balloons into the sky. That's bad. No. You guys are killing sea turtles.
No. They... did they? No,
yeah,
I think...
at the beginning.
Did they let off balloons? No, I think those are actual hot air balloons in the sky. They went to like a hot air balloon.
Here's actual hot air balloons.
They like.
Oh, okay. I feel better now. That last one was so fast; it just looked like a birthday party balloon.
Okay. So I just realized this is not a hip hop duo per se. This is Briella is the female who's gonna sing, and then this is featuring Happyzz, Hapizzez, and he's gonna give us the bars.
Sweet words that hypnotize. Take it to the sky. Baby girl, gotta watch them lies. Sweet words that would hypnotize. You can see it in the eyes. Words that are lies, though they try actions verified. He could be a prince in the night, but in the daylight, something strike. Bypass the hype. This is about life as you take flight. I gotta take pause.
Are you sure this isn't by Average Homeboy?
Yeah. Yeah, it is like, so Briella is an amazing singer quickly developing into a seasoned music artist. Her song, the song is just called Balloon Ride here, but apparently the full song is Balloon Ridin' in the Night Sky, is a metaphor for accepting responsibility and learning independence. In a way, that's what the Relient K song is, but it's through Christ. The video highlights the power of a strong father-daughter relationship. Is that her father? No, is it?
I don't know.
I can't tell if he's that much... I guess he looks older than her, but...
I don't know. I can't tell.
That's odd. If that's her father, he looks very young, or it's just a very confusing description to put... Because especially since it says featuring Happyzz, I just thought it was like a rapper she knows. Well, Anyway, it was filmed at the Temecula Wine and Balloon Festival.
Nice.
So, check out Briella's balloon ride. Oh, and then they actually do film it at night a little bit. That's nice. We got to go to the Temecula Balloon and Wine Festival sometime. So...
Yeah, it's too hard to get tickets to the Catalina fucking wine mixer.
Exactly. So we'll slum it in Temecula. So here's the only cover of Balloon Ride, the Relient K song. It is by Princes of the Sun from their full Relient K self-titled tribute album on Bandcamp.
That's right. I had forgotten that this was coming.
There were times in my life when I was confused. There were things between me and God that were blocking my view. So I prayed, oh dear Lord, to take these things away so I can see. He answered my prayer, and at the sight of him I fell to my knees. And until I went on to that fateful trip, I thought I was on a sinking ship. And until I went on to that fateful trip, I thought I was on a sinking ship. Until I went on a balloon ride, I could see everything from up there. I went on a balloon ride and now everything seems clear. I went on a balloon ride, I could see everything from up there.
That was nice.
That was nice. That's probably one of the best Princes of the Sun covers we've ever heard.
Yeah.
If somehow this is your first episode of the podcast, or at least if it's your first self-titled episode, the Princes of the Sun's tribute album is kind of like, we think now it might like deliberately be kind of bad, like in a somewhat post-ironic way. Like that Yola Tango karaoke album that they did where they like purposely sing awful. You don't know this album, but like I think it might be sort of jokey in that way, or like The Residents or something where it's like the joke is we do the best we can or we don't, because other Princes of the Sun music that I've checked out doesn't sound as off as a lot of their Relient K covers. In this case, it seems like they just did a really nice campfire acoustic cover of Balloon Ride. It's almost shocking to hear something just so pleasant and competent off of this album. And it sounds mean, but I'm only saying it because we've developed a theory now that a lot of the off-kilter covers on this tribute album are on purpose.
I know that one of the Princes of the Sun is listening. Come on the pod. Explain yourself.
So yeah, that's it for music. I found there's only one AMV, no FMVs, but there's one AMV, and it's Naruto. So Naruto was having some trouble, and he said, "Oh dear Lord, help me out, Jesus, help me with my ninja school."
Amazing.
Poor Naruto, he's confused. And
he's shooting lasers into the other man.
Yeah, he was shooting metaphorical
into the
lasers
guy with the
out
dark
of his eye
hair.
because he was not literal, but he was angry.
He fell to his knees in front of a guy with pink hair.
That's a girl, actually.
Sorry,
that's the
a girl with
Hermione
pink
of Naruto.
hair. Oh,
she's
gotcha.
she's got an angry anime face right now with the big furrowed brows, so she kind of looked not like herself. I don't know the characters' names. I read we talked about this. We talk about this every time a Naruto AMV comes up, but I read the first 10, 15 volumes of the manga, watched 5 episodes of the anime, and I was like, this is not specifically for me. But Naruto is like Harry Potter at a ninja school.
Right, you've mentioned that before.
So yeah, that was great. You actually see Naruto land on his knee out of a tree when it says I fell to my knees. So
I just realized I hadn't looked for fanfic in a while, so I just did a general search to see if I got any Balloon Ride fanfics. Nope.
Gotcha.
Balloon Ride fanfics. Bummer.
Well, I'll just give credit to this and not really watch it, but Red Knight Nation is a YouTube channel.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you found something? So, well, hold on. In 2017, Red Knight Nation posted a 2-part birthday vlog about like their day, I guess for their birthday or someone's birthday. I think the YouTuber's name is Red Knight. And I didn't actually find where, because it's like 10 minutes of birthday vlog, just showing their day, going to the mall, at someone's house, having cake. Nice. And somewhere in there, supposedly, is Balloon Ride by Relient K. I didn't find it, but I wanted to give them credit.
Did they go on a balloon ride?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because I kept flipping around trying to find it. I could have sat there and watched the whole video, but I didn't. I'm sorry, Red Knight, but happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. There's also Joy of the Lord by Ren Collective in here, apparently. At least they credited all the songs in the description. Elephant Parade is used in here somewhere. Sing, Sing, Sing by Chris Tomlin. And Say, Say by Kristen Stanfield.
So I found I don't know what fandom this is for, but it's a cartoon, I guess. And from Word Girl over on fanfic.net, it's a theme song, Balloon Ride by Relient K. I know it doesn't exactly fit, and we already had a balloon song, but I just had to mention this one anyway. Funny face. It's about how when you seek God, he rescues you from the confusion of life and things start to make sense. Interestingly enough, I have always seen a vague parallel between Toby's relationship with Becky, in my headcanon that is, and a Christian's relationship with Christ. I love Jesus because I'm so grateful for him saving me. And that's how Toby feels about Becky.
What fandom was this? I missed.
Word Girl?
Okay, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Oh no, this isn't by Word Girl. Word Girl is the name of the cartoon. This is by Knight N. Gale. Okay. Word Girl is the fandom. I'm not sure what Nerd Girl.
Oh my God.
Word Girl is. Sorry.
Word Girl is a PBS show where she's like a superhero that teaches you grammar.
Oh!
What an odd...
Don't worry. This one's rated K+, which just means that it's for everybody. So nothing dirty is going on.
What? Okay.
You're so baffled.
I mean, I thought nothing about fandom could specifically shock me. And this doesn't shock me, but this surprises me. Why would you have headcanon over an educational television show that specifically teaches you grammar? I can almost, like, the biggest educational shows like Teletubbies and Dora, I could imagine someone, like, creating this whole world around it. But, like, she's like a Flash animated superhero, and she teaches you grammar.
Well, this is Word Girl / Becky B. And then also has the character Toby M in it.
Ugh, I'm not looking into that. I don't know.
Dan, I was going to say, nothing should shock you from fandom, because there's so many shocking fandoms. There's Adam Sandler / Chuck E. Cheese fics out there, Danny.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Everything is a thing.
Well, the last thing I have to say is that I found, for some reason, this, I believe it's a Pakistani YouTube channel. It's a Mushtang Malik channel. The word mush, TAQ, Malik channel. And I guess it's just like a vlog about, life in Pakistan. They're not speaking English. They're speaking their native language, which I looked up the name of. It's like starts with a U. I'm learning a little bit about the world as I do all this. But for some reason, it's called Channer Balloon, and then another language can't read it. Sell by. So I don't understand. I don't know if this is like. So it seems like it's a real video because it's this guy standing there in Pakistan talking to the camera, but it definitely seems like it's created to do something with like balloons, because then when you look at the tags attached to it, it's like everything about the word balloon.
Yeah.
Just pages and pages and pages of the word balloon.
Wow.
In here. Hundreds and hundreds of tags.
Does he fly balloons?
I don't know. That's a really good question, but he
looks like he's at an airfield and he's got like a scarf on, like he's an aviator.
Yeah, that's
like
possible. There's no
aviator.
balloon in this video. And then there was one other video that also came up from their same channel where they're just talking to some children, to some girls, like hanging out, I assume like their daughters or kids in the neighborhood. I can show it to you, but they're like kids. I guess whatever. It's a very difficult to wrap my head around video, especially because because the whole video is not in English, and then half of the text is not in English. But they just want to make sure that if you Google balloons, you are going to find this video because it says balloon cartoon, balloon for kids, balloon song, balloon video, balloon prank, balloon hacks, balloon slime, balloon arch, balloon art, balloon air pump, balloon animals, and then in here specifically it says balloon ride by Relient K, along with hundreds and hundreds of other balloon related tags. Like they specifically tagged this balloon ride by Relient K, which is why I found it. I don't know what this channel's about. I don't know what they're trying to
Did they
support.
tag it 99 Luff Balloons?
I'm
Did
sure
they
that's...
tag it balloons from up?
I almost guarantee you that's in there as well. So it's just like it's a vlog from Pakistan, and I don't know what he specifically does, but there's like biking here, and if this is the same guy, he got very fit. I don't know if that's the same guy because he got a haircut and got fit, or someone else took over his video, or he was interviewing someone in that first video. I don't completely understand, but there's a lot of stuff, reviews of iPhones, and just a whole world of Pakistan YouTube that we get to deep dive down now. So listen next week as we start deep diving into Pakistan YouTubes. What do you think, Jess? Balloon ride. Do you like it more, less, or the same?
Oh, I think I like it a little more.
I think I like it a little more as well.
Right on.
Especially learning that it inspired Word Girl fan fiction really makes me realize there's a lot going on in this song, more than I ever realized.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. I need to go on a balloon ride.